Chief Marcus Hale kicked Ava Quinn square in the chest. She hit the concrete floor of the K9 kennel hard. Before she could stand, he slammed the steel door shut and locked it. 6 starving military attack dogs lunged from the shadows, fangs out, spit flying chains of muscle coiling to tear her apart. Hale pressed his face to the cage wire and snarled, "Scream for me, Quinn, beg." He wanted blood. He wanted her destroyed. But Ava Quinn did not scream. She did not beg. She stood up, looked those dogs dead in the eyes, and did something that made every man on that base go silent. Because the woman they just threw away like trash was a ghost the military had been trying to bury for 3 years. If this story grips you, subscribe to this channel right now and stay with me until the very end. Drop a comment and tell me what city you're watching from. I want to see just how far this story travels. The morning Ava Quinn arrived at Naval Special Warfare Training, Base Echo, nobody gave her a second look. She was just another name on a roster, just another body in a line of 47 recruits standing in the cold at 0500, shivering, waiting to be told what to do next. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Hale walked down the line slow. He always walked slow. It was part of the act. He liked the sound of his own boots. He liked the silence that followed each step. 22 years in the Navy had taught him one thing above all else. Fear was the most useful tool a man could carry. He stopped in front of Ava. "Quinn." "Yes, Chief." "You're the one who transferred in from Pendleton." "Yes, Chief." "You know what we do here?" "I do, Chief." Hale leaned in close enough that she could smell the coffee on his breath. "We break people here, Quinn. That's the bomb. I break you down so the enemy doesn't get the chance." Ava said nothing. Hale's jaw tightened. He hated silence. Silence from a recruit meant one of two things. Either they were too terrified to speak, or they weren't afraid at all. And something in this woman's eyes, something still and deep and steady, told him it was the second one. That bothered him. It bothered him more than he wanted to admit. He moved on down the line, barking orders, slamming his palm against the chest of a tall kid from Oklahoma who flinched too hard. But even as he moved, even as he performed his role, his mind stayed locked on Ava Quinn. Something about her was off. And Marcus Hale had built his entire career on trusting that instinct. The first week of training was designed to do one thing: eliminate the weak. 72 hours of sleep deprivation. Cold water immersion, obstacle courses run back to back to back until recruits collapsed or quit. Hale had seen men twice Ava's size ring the bell and walk away crying. He expected her to be gone by day 3. She wasn't. On day 3, Ava completed the underwater knot tying drill in 41 seconds. The base record was 58. The instructor running the drill, Petty Officer Davis, looked at his stopwatch twice. "Run it again," Davis said. Ava ran it again. 39 seconds. Davis looked at Hale across the pool deck. Hale looked back. Neither man said a word, but the message passed between them like electricity. Who is this woman? By the end of the first week, Ava Quinn had not only survived every test, she had outperformed 90% of the class. She ran faster. She swam longer. She held her breath deeper. And she did it all with the same expression. Calm, focused, like she had done all of this before. Noah Carter noticed it first. Noah was 26, a former college wrestler from Virginia, built like a fire hydrant and twice as stubborn. He had wanted to be a SEAL since he was 14 years old, and he had spent every day of his life preparing for this moment. He was good. He knew he was good. But watching Ava move through the drills made him feel like a child playing pretend. "Hey," Noah said one night, sitting on the edge of his rack. "Quinn." Ava was lacing her boots 3 bunks down. She didn't look up. "Yeah. Where'd you train before this, Pendleton?" "No, I mean before that. Where did you really train?" Now she looked up. Her eyes met his, and Noah felt something he couldn't explain. A chill, not the kind that comes from cold air, the kind that comes from standing too close to something dangerous. "I trained at Pendleton," Ava said again, and then she went back to lacing her boots. Noah didn't push it, but he didn't forget it either. Week 2 brought the combat simulations, close quarters, room clearing, live fire exercises with blanks that sounded real enough to make your ears ring for hours. Hale ran the scenarios himself, watching from the observation platform, clipboard in hand, pen moving fast. Ava cleared rooms like she was walking through her own house. She moved before the doors were fully open. She identified threats before other recruits even registered what they were looking at. Her timing was surgical, her decisions were instant, and her hands never shook. Not once. Hale threw the clipboard on the table in the briefing room that night. "Pull her file," he said to Lieutenant Briggs, his administrative officer. Briggs looked confused. Whose file? Quinn, Ava Quinn. Pull everything you have on her. Briggs pulled the file. It was thin, too thin. Basic enlistment records. A transfer order from Camp Pendleton. Fitness reports that were average, not exceptional. The kind of file that belonged to someone who didn't want to be noticed. Hale read it 3 times. Then he set it down and stared at the wall. This is wrong, he said. What do you mean? Briggs asked. I mean, this file is a lie. Nobody moves the way she moves and has a jacket this clean. Something is missing. Find it. Briggs spent 2 days making phone calls. Every call hit a dead end. The commanding officer at Pendleton confirmed Quinn's transfer, but offered no additional details. Her previous unit had no records beyond what was already in the file. Her background check came back spotless. Too spotless. It's like she didn't exist before 18 months ago, Briggs told Hale. Hale nodded slowly. That's because she didn't. The next morning, Hale made a decision that would change everything. He walked across the base to the K9 compound. He spoke briefly with Staff Sergeant Torres, the head dog handler, and then he returned to the training yard where the recruits were running drills. Quinn, he shouted, fall out. You're with me. Ava jogged over, breathing steady. Yes, Chief? We're doing something different today. Follow me. He led her across the base without another word. The other recruits watched them go. Noah Carter watched longest. Something cold settled in his gut. He had seen that look on Hale's face before. It was the look a man gets when he's about to do something cruel and call it training. The K9 compound was set apart from the main training facilities. Inside were 12 kennels, each housing a military working dog trained for patrol detection or attack. These were not pets. These were weapons with fur and teeth. Belgian Malinois, Dutch Shepherds, German Shepherds bred from lines that stretched back to military programs in Europe. They were trained to chase, to bite, to hold, to take down armed combatants. Hale stopped in front of Kennel 6. Inside were 6 dogs, the most aggressive group on the base. They were used for advanced threat simulation. Even experienced handlers entered with protective gear and a partner. Get in, Hale said. Ava looked at the kennel. She looked at the mums. She looked at Hale. Chief, those dogs are unrestrained. I know what they are. There's no protective equipment. I know. Ava held his gaze. 5 seconds. 10. The silence between them was thick enough to touch. Is this an order, Chief? Hale smiled. It was not a kind smile. Consider it an invitation. Torres stood nearby, his face white. He stepped forward. Chief, I have to advise against this. Those dogs haven't been fed since yesterday. They're in a heightened state. If something goes wrong, then something goes wrong, Hale said without looking at him. Quinn, you have 30 seconds to enter that kennel. Or you can ring the bell and go home. Your choice. Ava Quinn did not ring the bell. She walked to the kennel door. She unlatched it. She pulled it open, and she stepped inside. 6 dogs turned toward her at once. The 2 largest, Rex and Duke, both Belgian Malinois, moved first. They lowered their heads. Their lips pulled back. A growl rose from Rex's chest that sounded like a diesel engine turning over. Torres gripped the catchpole in his hands, ready to intervene. Hale stood with his arms crossed, watching. Ava stood in the center of the kennel. She did not move. She did not speak. She did not crouch or raise her hands or do any of the things a frightened person would do. She breathed. Slow, steady, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Rex advanced, his growl deepened, his body coiled like a spring. Every muscle in that animal was built for one purpose, and right now every cell in his brain was telling him to attack. Ava lowered her chin, just slightly, just enough to change the angle of her eyes. And then she did something that nobody on that base had ever seen a person do. She growled back, not loud, not aggressive, low, guttural, a sound that came from somewhere deep in her diaphragm, a sound that did not belong in a human throat. Rex stopped. His ears flattened. His tail dropped. His body wound so tight a moment ago went loose. And then slowly, as if some invisible hand pressed down on his spine, Rex lowered himself to the ground. He rolled onto his side. He exposed his belly. Submission, complete, total, unconditional submission. Duke followed, then the 3rd dog, then the 4th. Within 60 seconds, all 6 dogs were on the ground. Silent. Still. Not one of them would look Ava in the eye. Torres dropped the catchpole. His hands were shaking. Hale's smile was gone. In its place was something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Something that tasted like fear. Ava turned her head toward the kennel door. Her voice was even. measured, as calm as if she were ordering coffee. Open the door, Chief. Hale didn't move. Open the door. He reached forward. His hand was not steady. He unlatched the door. Ava stepped out. She walked past him without a word. She walked past Torres. She walked back toward the training yard. Hale watched her go. His mouth was dry. His heart was hammering against his ribs. Torres came up beside him. Chief, what the hell was that? Hale didn't answer, because he didn't have an answer. But for the first time in 22 years, Marcus Hale was afraid of a recruit. That night, he sat alone in his office. The file on Ava Quinn was open on his desk. He had read it so many times the pages were soft from handling. He picked up the phone and dialed a number he hadn't called in years. It rang 4 times. This is Commander Vance. Commander, it's Hale. I'm calling about a recruit. A pause. What about them? Something's wrong, sir. I have a woman in my class who can make attack dogs submit without touching them. She clears rooms faster than operators with 10 years of experience. Her file is thin enough to read through, and nobody at Pendleton will talk about her. Another pause. Longer this time. What's her name? Quinn. Ava Quinn. The silence on the other end of the line lasted so long that Hale thought the connection had dropped. Commander, I heard you. Vance's voice had changed. It was lower now, harder, like a door closing. I need you to listen very carefully, Chief. Whatever you have done to draw attention to this woman, stop. Whatever file you've been pulling, close it. Whatever questions you've been asking, stop asking them. Sir, I don't understand. You're not supposed to understand. You're supposed to follow orders. That woman is not your concern. She is not a recruit. She is not a problem for you to solve. Leave her alone. The line went dead. Hale sat there in the dark, the phone pressed to his ear, listening to nothing. His mind was racing. 22 years. 22 years of following orders, of doing what he was told, of trusting the chain of command to know things he didn't need to know. But this was different. A woman who could silence attack dogs with a sound. A file that didn't exist. A commander who sounded scared. Marcus Hale was not the kind of man who let things go. He had never been that man. And he wasn't about to start now. He set the phone down. He opened his desk drawer. He pulled out a second phone, one that wasn't issued by the Navy, one that didn't show up on any official record. He dialed a different number. Frank, it's Marcus. I need you to run a name through the system, deep as you can go. What name? Ava Quinn, but I don't think that's her real name. 3 days later, Hale received an encrypted email from an address he didn't recognize. There was no subject line, no greeting, just 2 words and a photograph. The 2 words were Maya Reeves. The photograph showed a woman in full tactical gear standing in front of a Black Hawk helicopter. Her face was smudged with dust and sweat. Her eyes were hard. Behind her, the landscape was flat and brown and endless. Syria. Hale stared at the photograph. Then he stared at the name. Then he opened his laptop and searched every military database he had access to for Maya Reeves. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Not a service record, not a deployment history, not a photograph, not a single pixel of digital existence anywhere in the entire Department of Defense database. Maya Reeves had been erased. And the woman who had taken her place, the woman sleeping in a bunk 30 yards from where Hale sat right now, the woman who had made 6 attack dogs surrender without lifting a finger, was either the most dangerous person on this base or the most dangerous person who had ever set foot on it. Hale closed his laptop. He leaned back in his chair, and for the first time in his career, he did not know what to do next. Down the corridor in the barracks, Ava Quinn lay in her bunk with her eyes open. She stared at the ceiling. She had heard the phone call Hale made to Vance. She had heard the fear in Vance's voice, and she knew with a certainty that sat in her bones like cold metal that the clock had started. They were going to find out who she was. And when they did, the people who had been hunting Maya Reeves for 3 years were going to find out where she was, and then the killing would start again. Ava closed her eyes, not to sleep. She hadn't truly slept in 3 years. She closed her eyes to remember, to feel the weight of the rifle in her hands, to hear the voices of the 6 men she had lost in the desert, to see their faces one more time before the world she had built to protect herself came crashing down. Because it was coming down. She could feel it, like a storm you smell before you see. It was already here. Noah Carter couldn't sleep either. He lay in his bunk across the barracks, staring at the same ceiling, thinking about the same woman. He had seen what happened in the kennel. Torres had told everyone. By nightfall, the entire base knew. The woman who walked into a cage of attack dogs and walked out untouched. But it was what Torres said at the end that stuck in Noah's mind. She didn't tame them, Torres had whispered. She didn't calm them down. She spoke to them in their language, like she was one of them, like she was the alpha of every pack that ever existed. Noah rolled over. He pulled the thin wool blanket up to his chin. Who are you, Ava Quinn? He didn't know the answer, but he was starting to suspect that when the answer came, it would change everything. Not just for him, not just for Hale, but for everyone on this base. And maybe for everyone who had ever known the name Maya Reeves. The encrypted email sat open on Hale's laptop for 6 hours. 2 words. Maya Reeves, in a photograph that should not exist. He hadn't moved from his chair. The coffee on his desk had gone cold twice. Outside the base was waking up. Boots on gravel, whistles, the bark of sergeants pushing recruits through the morning routine. None of it reached him. His entire world had narrowed to a photograph of a woman standing in front of a Black Hawk helicopter in Syria, wearing the face of the recruit, sleeping 30 yards away. At 0600, Hale made a decision. He picked up his phone and called Briggs. My office, now. Briggs arrived in 4 minutes. He took one look at Hale's face and closed the door behind him without being asked. Sit down, Hale said. Briggs sat. Hale turned the laptop around. Tell me what you see. Briggs leaned forward. His eyes moved from the photograph to the 2 words beneath it. His face didn't change, but his breathing did. It got shallow. Quick. The way a man breathes when his brain is processing something it doesn't want to accept. That's Quinn, Briggs said. That's not Quinn. That's someone named Maya Reeves. And according to every database the Department of Defense operates, Maya Reeves does not exist. Then how do you have her picture? I called in a favor. Someone outside the system, someone who doesn't follow the same rules we do. Briggs sat back. Chief, if you're running an unauthorized background check on a recruit using outside contacts, that's a career-ending move. Briggs, I kicked that woman into a cage with 6 attack dogs yesterday. She made every single one of them lie down without touching them. My career is already on the line. I need to know who she is. Briggs rubbed his face with both hands. What do you want from me? I want you to go to records and pull every deployment log from JSOC operations in Syria between 2019 and 2022. Specifically, I want anything related to K9 units operating in the Eastern Corridor. That's classified. Then get creative. Briggs left. Hale closed the laptop and stared at the wall. Commander Vance had told him to stop, had ordered him to leave Ava Quinn alone. And for 3 days, Hale had tried. He had gone through the motions, run the drills, evaluated the recruits, pretended that the woman in Kennel 6 was just another name on a clipboard. But he couldn't do it. The image of those dogs lying on the ground, bellies up trembling, would not leave his mind. In 22 years, he had never seen anything like it. Not from a handler, not from a trainer, not from anyone. Whatever Ava Quinn was hiding, it was bigger than a classified file. And Marcus Hale was not the kind of man who walked away from a question he couldn't answer. Meanwhile, in the training yard, Ava felt a shift. It was subtle, a change in the way people looked at her. A half-second too long. A conversation that stopped when she walked past. The story of the kennel had spread through the base like wildfire, and now every recruit, every instructor, every support staff member on Echo was watching her. She kept her head down. She ran the drills. She followed orders. But inside, behind the mask she had worn for 3 years, a clock was ticking. Hale was digging. She could feel it the way an animal feels a predator circling. And if Hale dug deep enough, if he found even one thread of Maya Reeves, then the people who wanted her dead would find that thread too. Noah Carter fell in step beside her during the morning run. He didn't say anything for the first 2 miles. Just ran, matched her pace, breathed when she breathed. It was Noah's way of saying I'm here without actually saying it. At mile 3, he spoke. People are talking. People always talk. They're saying you're special ops. They're saying you've done this before. Some of them are saying you're a plant sent here to evaluate the program. And what do you think? Noah ran another 50 yards before answering. I think you're scared. Ava looked at him. It was the first time anyone on this base had surprised her. I've watched you for 2 weeks, Noah continued. You're the most capable person I've ever seen. You move like you've been trained by people who don't exist on any organizational chart. But every time Hale gets close to you, every time someone asks a question, you don't expect your left hand makes a fist. You do it fast. You probably don't even know you're doing it. But I see it, and the only reason a person that capable makes a fist like that is because they're not afraid of what's in front of them. They're afraid of what's behind them. Ava stopped running. She stood on the dirt track, chest barely moving, eyes locked on Noah Carter from Virginia, former wrestler, stubborn as a brick wall. You should stop watching me, Noah. Why? Because if you see what's behind me, you won't be able to unsee it, and it will follow you for the rest of your life. She started running again. Noah stood there for 3 seconds watching her go. Then he started running too, because Noah Carter was also not the kind of man who walked away from a question he couldn't answer. 48 hours later, Briggs came back with something. He walked into Hale's office at 2200 after the base had gone quiet, carrying a single manila folder. "Close the door," Hale said. Briggs closed it. He set the folder on the desk. His hands were shaking. "Where did you get this?" Hale asked. "A friend at SOCOM Archives. He owed me one. Chief, before you open that, I need you to understand something. What's in this folder is beyond classified. This is SAP level, Special Access Program. The kind of thing that gets people reassigned to a desk in Alaska for 30 years. Noted. I'm serious, Chief. If anyone finds out I pulled this, then nobody finds out. Sit down." Hale opened the folder. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a mission summary redacted so heavily that most of the text was blacked out. But the pieces that remained were enough. Operation designation, Silent Fang. Date, March 2021. Location, Eastern Syria. Unit composition, 6 operators. 1 K9 handler. Handler designation, Reeves M. Mission objective, redacted. Mission outcome, catastrophic loss. 5 operators, KIA. 1 operator, MIA, presumed dead. Handler survived. Target extracted successfully. Hale read it again, then a third time. Then he looked at Briggs. 5 dead, 1 missing, and the handler walked out alive with the target. Briggs nodded. That's what it says. 1 woman alone, with dead teammates all around her, and she still completed the mission. Chief, there's more. Look at the bottom. Hale looked. At the bottom of the page in small type was a note that hadn't been fully redacted. Post-mission status, handler identity scrubbed per SEC, DEF directive. All records expunged. Personnel reassigned to protected status under new identity. Current location classified. Hale set the paper down. His hands were steady, but his mind was anything but. "She's not a recruit," he said quietly. "She never was. She's in hiding. Someone put her here in this program with a fake name and a fake file because someone out there wants her dead." "That's my read too," Briggs said. "And I just kicked her into a cage full of bombs and started pulling at threads that are supposed to stay buried." Briggs said nothing. He didn't need to. The weight of what Hale had done was settling onto both of them like concrete. "Chief, what are you going to do?" Hale stood up. He walked to the window. Outside the base was dark, quiet, the kind of quiet that comes before something breaks. "I'm going to talk to her," he said. "That's a terrible idea." "I know." Hale found Ava outside the barracks. She was sitting on an ammunition crate staring at nothing. She heard him coming but didn't turn around. She knew it was him. She could identify his footsteps from 50 yards by now. "Quinn, it's late, Chief." "I know." He stopped 3 feet away. "Or should I call you Reeves?" Ava's body went still, not the stillness of surprise, the stillness of a weapon being armed. Every muscle in her frame locked into position, and for 1 terrible second, Hale understood with absolute clarity that the woman in front of him could kill him before he finished his next sentence. "Sit down, Chief," Ava said. Her voice was ice. "Sit down and choose your next words very carefully." Hale sat on the crate across from her. His heart was pounding. He had faced down insurgents in Fallujah. He had survived an ambush in Kandahar that killed 3 men standing next to him. But sitting across from this woman in the dark, knowing what he now knew was the most frightened he had ever been. "I'm not here to expose you," he said. "Then why are you here?" "Because I made a mistake. I put you in that kennel to break you. I did it because you scared me and I don't handle fear well. I've never handled it well. I push back. I attack. It's the worst part of who I am, and I put you in danger because of it." Ava said nothing for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice had changed. Not softer, deeper, like a door opening to a room that had been sealed for years. "You didn't put me in danger, Chief. The dogs were never a threat to me. I've worked with animals like that my whole career. What you did was worse. You drew attention to me. You made people curious. You made them ask questions. And every question that gets asked about me sends a signal that travels through channels you don't know exist to people you never want to meet. Who are these people?" The people who killed my team. The words hit Hale like a physical blow. He leaned back on the crate, his mouth opened, then closed. Silent Fang, he said. March 2021. You found the file. Part of it. Enough. Ava turned to look at him for the first time. In the dark, her eyes caught the light from the distant guard tower. They looked ancient. They looked like eyes that had seen things the human mind was never meant to hold. There were 7 of us, she said. 6 operators and me. The best team I ever worked with. We went into Syria to extract a defector who had intelligence on a weapons program that could have changed the balance of power in the entire region. The mission was clean. The extraction was textbook. And then 40 minutes from the border, we were ambushed. By who? By people who knew exactly where we would be, exactly when we would be there, exactly how many of us there were, and exactly what route we were taking. Hale's blood went cold. You're saying it was an inside job. I'm saying 6 men died because someone in our own chain of command sold us out. And when I survived and brought the target home, that person realized I was the one loose end they couldn't afford to leave. So they erased me. My name, my record, my entire existence. They told the world Maya Reeves died in Syria, and they buried me in a training program under a fake name where I was supposed to disappear forever. But you didn't disappear. No, because I made a promise to 6 dead men that I would find out who betrayed them. And I have spent every single day of the last 3 years getting closer to that answer. Hale felt the ground shift beneath him. Not physically. Something deeper. Something in his understanding of the world of the Navy, of the system he had served for more than 2 decades. He had always believed in the chain of command. He had built his life on it. And now this woman was telling him that chain had a broken link, and that broken link had gotten good people killed. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Because you already know too much to unknow it. And because the signal you sent, the calls you made, the file you pulled, it's already out there. The people who want me dead are going to hear about it. It might take a week, it might take a day, but they're going to hear. And when they come, they're not going to just come for me. What do you mean? I mean, they'll come for everyone who knows. You, Briggs, anyone who touched that file. These people don't leave witnesses, Chief. They don't leave loose ends. They burn everything to the ground and walk away clean. Hale stared at her. The fear he had felt before was nothing compared to what he felt now. This wasn't the fear of a cage full of dogs. This was the fear of realizing that you have stepped into a war you didn't know existed, and there is no stepping back out. What do we do? He asked, and he hated himself for asking. Marcus Hale had never in his life asked someone else what to do. But he was asking now. Ava stood up. She looked down at him, and for a moment, she wasn't Ava Quinn. She wasn't a recruit. She was Maya Reeves, K-9 handler, Navy SEAL, the woman who had walked out of a massacre in the Syrian desert carrying a man on her back, and a list of the dead burned into her memory. You have 2 choices, she said. You can go to Commander Vance in the morning, tell him everything you've found, and let the system handle it. If the system is clean, if Vance is clean, then maybe it works. Maybe they relocate me again. Maybe they bury this deeper. And if the system isn't clean, if Vance is part of it, Ava's jaw tightened. Then you just told the enemy exactly where I am. What's the second choice? You help me. You use your contacts. You use your access. And together we find the person who sold out my team before they find us. Hale sat on that ammunition crate in the dark, and he felt the weight of 22 years pressing down on his shoulders. Everything he had ever been told about duty, about obedience, about trusting the system, screamed at him to go to Vance, to follow protocol, to let the machine do what the machine was built to do. But 6 men were dead, and the machine had killed them. He stood up. He looked Ava in the eye. What do you need from me? A flicker of something crossed her face. Not gratitude, recognition. The recognition of one soldier to another, the moment when you know you are no longer alone. I need the full unredacted file on Silent Fang. I need communication logs from JSOC for the 72 hours before the mission. And I need a name. What name? The person inside the system who gave our position to the enemy. They used a code name on the leaked transmission. I've spent 3 years trying to trace it, and every trail goes dead. What's the code name? Ava looked at him, and the words she spoke hit him harder than anything she had said all night. Shepard. Hale blinked, his face drained of color. His lips parted, but no sound came out for several seconds. Chief. I know that name, Hale whispered. Shepard. I've heard it before. Now it was Ava's turn to go still. Where last year, a classified briefing I wasn't supposed to attend. I was filling in for a colleague at Warcom. They mentioned a code name during a security review. Shepard. They said the asset had been dormant for 2 years but might be reactivated. Reactivated for what? They didn't say. The briefing was shut down when someone realized I didn't have the proper clearance. I was escorted out. I never thought about it again. Ava's hands curled into fists. Not from fear, from something far more dangerous. Hope. For 3 years, she had chased a ghost through a maze of classified walls and dead ends. And now, standing in the dark on a military base, she was never supposed to be found, on the man who had thrown her into a cage of dogs, was handing her the first real lead she had found since Syria. Chief, I need you to remember everything about that briefing. Every face in the room, every word you heard, every detail, no matter how small. I will. But Ava, if Shepard is real, if there's a traitor inside JSOC or Warcom or anywhere near that level, then we're not just talking about your team. We're talking about every operation, every asset, every mission that person has touched since 2021. I know. This could go all the way to the top. I know that too. Hale exhaled. He rubbed the back of his neck. He looked at the dark sky above them and felt the weight of what they were about to do settle into his bones. You know what happens to people who go after something like this? Yes. They disappear. They have accidents. They wash up on beaches. Yes. And you still want to do it. Ava stepped closer. Close enough that Hale could see the thin scar that ran along her left jawline, a souvenir from a night in the Syrian desert that the world was never supposed to know about. 6 men bled out in the sand because someone in a comfortable office made a phone call, she said. I held 2 of them while they died. I told them it would be okay. I lied to dying men, Chief, and I have carried that lie every day since. So yes, I still want to do it. I will always want to do it. Until the person who made that call is standing in front of me and they know what it feels like to have nowhere to run. Across the base in a barracks, he should have been sleeping and Noah Carter stood at the window. He couldn't see Ava and Hale in the dark, but he could feel it. The way you feel electricity before lightning strikes. The way you feel the ground tremble before the earthquake hits. Something was happening on this base. Something that had nothing to do with training. Something that was about to break the surface and swallow everyone standing on it. Noah pressed his forehead against the cold glass. He closed his eyes. And somewhere in Washington, in a building with no name and no windows, a phone rang. A man in a gray suit picked it up. He listened for 11 seconds. Then he said 2 words. Find her. He hung up the phone. He opened a desk drawer. Inside was a file. Thin, old, dog-eared at the corners. On the tab, written in black ink, was a name that had been dead for 3 years. Maya Reeves. He picked up a red pen. He drew a single line through the name, and beneath it in the same steady hand he wrote a new word. Terminated. The word terminated was still wet on the page when the man in the gray suit picked up his phone a second time. He dialed a number with a Virginia area code. It rang once. Yes. Shepard is compromised. Someone at Echo Base pulled a Silent Fang fragment from SOCOM archives 48 hours ago. The request originated from a Lieutenant Briggs, but the order came from a Chief Petty Officer named Marcus Hale. How much did they get? Enough. The mission summary, the handler's designation. It won't take them long to connect the rest. And the handler, still at Echo, still using the Quinn identity, but if Hale knows her name, it's only a matter of time before she moves. Silence on the line. The sound of someone thinking. The sound of someone calculating how many people needed to keep a secret buried. Send Colton. The man in the gray suit hesitated. Colton is extreme. If he operates on a domestic military base, the footprint will be impossible to hide. I didn't ask for your assessment. I said send Colton. I want the handler dead within 72 hours. I want Hale contained. I want every copy of that file recovered and destroyed, and I want it done quietly. And if it can't be done quietly, then it gets done loudly. Either way, Maya Reeves dies this week. The line went dead. 600 miles south on Echo Base, Ava Quinn was already moving. It was 0400. The barracks were silent. She had waited until the breathing around her settled into the deep rhythm of sleep, and then she had rolled out of her bunk without making a sound. 3 years of living as a ghost had taught her how to move through a room full of people without disturbing the air. She crossed the compound in the dark. No flashlight, No hesitation. She knew every step, every turn, every blind spot in the security camera coverage. She had mapped it all within her first 72 hours on base. Not because she was paranoid, because paranoia was the reason she was still alive. Hale was waiting in his office. He had left the door unlocked. When Ava slipped inside, he was sitting behind his desk with 2 cups of coffee and a look on his face that told her he hadn't slept either. "You look terrible," Ava said. "I've been reading." He pushed a stack of papers across the desk. "Everything I could find on the Warcom briefing from last year. I wrote down every name I remembered seeing in that room." Ava picked up the list. 7 names. She scanned them fast, her eyes moving with the precision of someone who had spent years reading intelligence reports under time pressure. She stopped on the 4th name, her finger pressed down on the paper so hard it left a dent. Deputy Director Raymond Cross. "You know him?" "Now, He signed my deployment orders for Syria. He was the operational authority for Silent Fang." Hale leaned forward. "Ava Cross is one of the most senior officials in Special Operations Command. He has direct access to the Secretary of Defense. If he's Shepard, then he's been selling American soldiers to the enemy for years, and he's been doing it from inside the building that's supposed to protect them." Hale ran his hands through his hair. He stood up. He sat back down. He picked up his coffee and set it down without drinking. "This is too big," he said. "This is bigger than us. We need to go to someone. The Inspector General, the FBI, someone with the authority to—" "No, Ava." I said no. Listen to me, Chief. I spent 6 months after Syria trying to go through proper channels. I filed reports. I made formal requests. I contacted every oversight office I could find. And every single time the door closed. Every report got lost. Every request got denied. Every person I talked to either went silent or got transferred. The system didn't fail me. The system was designed to stop me. Because the person who built the wall I kept hitting was the same person who sold us out. Cross. Cross knows how the system works better than anyone alive. He built half of it. If we go to the Inspector General, Cross will know within 24 hours. If we go to the FBI, he'll know in 12. He has people everywhere. Not because he's some kind of criminal mastermind, because he's been doing this for 20 years and he's very, very good at making sure the right people owe him favors. Hale stared at her. Then what's the play? The play is we get the evidence ourselves, the unredacted Silent Fang file, the communication logs that show who transmitted our position to the enemy, and the financial records that prove Cross was paid for it. Financial records. Nobody commits treason for free, Chief. There's money somewhere. There's always money. A Swiss account, an offshore shell company, a property bought through a third party. If Cross is Shepard, then somewhere in the world there is a paper trail that connects him to whoever paid for the lives of my team, and I am going to find it. Hale was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was different, lower, stripped of the authority he usually carried like armor. "I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For the kennel. For the dogs, for treating you like something to be broken. I've been doing this job so long I forgot that not every threat is an enemy. Sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is dangerous because they have survived things you can't imagine. And instead of recognizing that I tried to destroy it," Ava looked at him, really looked at him, past the uniform, past the rank, past the 22 years of calluses that the military had built around his heart. "I don't need your apology, Chief. I need your help. There's a difference. You have it. Then we start now. The Warcom briefing you attended, you said it was shut down when they realized you didn't have clearance. Who shut it down?" Hale thought. He closed his eyes and went back to that day. A conference room, 8 people around a table, a projection screen with names and code names and operational maps. "A woman," he said, "blonde, late 40s. She was sitting at the head of the table. She stood up when she saw me and said, 'This briefing is terminated. Clear the room.' Her name was on a placard in front of her seat." "What was the name?" "Colonel Diana Falk." Ava went still, not the combat stillness Hale had seen before. A different kind, the stillness of someone who has just heard a name they buried in the deepest part of their memory. "You know her," Hale said. It wasn't a question. "Diana Falk was my commanding officer. She ran the Silent Fang operation from JSOC headquarters in Fort Bragg. She was the one who selected my team. She was the one who gave us the mission briefing. And she was the last person to speak to us before we boarded the helicopter to Syria. And you think she's involved?" "I didn't. Until right now. Diana Falk was the only person outside the team who knew our exact extraction route. She planned it herself. She said it was the safest corridor. She said the area had been cleared by drone surveillance for 48 hours. But it hadn't been cleared. No, it hadn't, because 40 minutes into the extraction, there were 17 enemy fighters waiting for us in a position that could only have been chosen by someone who knew exactly where we would be. The ambush was surgical, professional. They hit our lead vehicle first, then the rear. Classic kill box. My team never had a chance. Abuba's voice hadn't cracked, hadn't wavered. But Hale could see her hands. They were gripping the edge of the desk so hard that her knuckles had turned white. Falk and Cross, Hale said. Both in the room during a classified briefing about Shepard. Both connected to Silent Fang, both in positions to have transmitted your team's location. One of them is Shepard, or both. I don't know yet, but I know that the answer is in the communication logs from that night. Every transmission in and out of JSOC headquarters is recorded and archived. If someone sent a message to the enemy with our position, it's in those logs. The problem is those logs are stored in a SCIF at Fort Bragg. Level 5 access. I'd need to be a sitting flag officer to get through the door. Or you'd need someone who knows the facility, Hale said slowly. Ava tilted her head. Do you, my ex-wife, Major Catherine Hale? She works in the Signals Intelligence Division at Bragg. She has level 5 access. Would she help? Hale let out a breath that sounded like it had been sitting in his chest for a decade. Catherine and I haven't spoken in 3 years. Our marriage didn't survive my last deployment. I said things, she said things, it ended badly. Can you call her? She'll hang up. Then call her again. Hale picked up his phone. He stared at it the way a man stares at a loaded gun. Then he dialed. It rang 5 times, 6, 7. He was about to hang up when the line connected. Marcus, it's 4 in the morning. I know, I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Just tell me what you want so I can hang up. Catherine, I need your help. A pause. The kind of pause that carries 3 years of silence and all the words that were never said. You've never said that before. Not once in 15 years of marriage. I know. What kind of help? The kind that could get us both court-martialed. Or killed. Another pause. Longer. I'm listening. Hale told her. Not everything. Not about Ava's real identity, but enough. A compromise mission. Dead soldiers. A possible traitor inside JSOC. Communication logs that could prove it. He spoke for 4 minutes without stopping, and Catherine listened without interrupting. When he finished, the line was so quiet he could hear her breathing. Marcus, do you understand what you're asking me to do? Yes. You're asking me to access classified intelligence archives without authorization. To copy files that are protected under national security protocols. To commit espionage against the United States military. I'm asking you to help me find out who got 6 Americans killed. And if you're wrong, if there is no traitor, if this is just some paranoid conspiracy theory cooked up by a burned-out chief who's been on base too long, then I'm wrong and I'll take the fall. All of it. Your name never comes up. I promise you that. Your promises don't mean much to me anymore, Marcus. The words hit him. He absorbed them the way you absorb a body blow, with a flinch and a breath and the decision to stay standing. I know they don't, but 6 dead men deserve better than a promise. They deserve the truth, and you're the only person who can get it. Catherine was silent for 30 seconds. Hale counted every one. I need 48 hours, and Marcus, if this goes sideways, if anyone comes to my door with questions, I will deny everything. I will burn you to protect myself. We're clear on that. We're clear. 48 hours. She hung up. Hale set the phone down. His hands were trembling. Ava watched him from across the desk. She'll do it? Ava asked. She'll do it, but if she gets caught, we lose everything, and she goes to prison. Then she can't get caught. The next morning at 0700, something happened that changed the trajectory of everything. Noah Carter was running the obstacle course with the other recruits when Staff Sergeant Torres approached him at the water station. Carter. Yes, Staff Sergeant. Torres looked around, made sure no one was close enough to hear. Then he spoke in a voice so low that Noah had to lean in. I did some checking on Quinn. After the Kennel incident, I have friends in the handler community, people who've been working military dogs for 20, 30 years. And I described what she did, the sound she made, the way those dogs responded. Every single person I talked to said the same thing. There is only one handler in the history of the military K-9 program who could do what she did. Only one. A woman named Maya Reeves. Noah felt the ground tilt. Who is Maya Reeves? That's the thing. Maya Reeves is dead. Officially killed in action during a classified operation in Syria in 2021. No body recovered, no funeral, no memorial. She just stopped existing. But if she's dead, then how? Exactly. Torres looked him dead in the eye. Either Maya Reeves is a ghost who came back from the dead, or she never died in the first place. And she's sleeping in a bunk in your barracks. Noah stood there with water dripping off his chin and his heart hammering so loud he was sure Torres could hear it. Everything he had noticed about Ava, the way she moved, the way she fought, the way her left hand made a fist when she was afraid, all of it suddenly clicked into place like tumblers in a lock. Ava Quinn was Maya Reeves, and Maya Reeves was supposed to be dead. At 1100, Ava was called to Commander Vance's office. She walked across the base with her spine straight and her face blank. But inside, every alarm she had was screaming. Vance hadn't spoken to her once since she arrived on base. For the commander to summon her now after Hale's phone call, after the file, after the kennel, meant that the walls were closing in faster than she expected. She knocked on the door. Enter. Vance was standing behind his desk. He was a big man, 6'3", 220, with a face carved out of granite and eyes that gave away nothing. He had the look of a man who had spent his entire life making decisions that ruined people. Close the door, Quinn. Sit down. Ava sat. Vance didn't sit. He stayed standing, towering over her. A power move, the kind of thing that worked on recruits. I received a report from Chief Hale about an incident in the K9 compound. He put you in a kennel with 6 unrestrained attack dogs. Is that correct? Yes, Commander. And according to multiple witnesses, you subdued those dogs without physical contact. Yes, Commander. Halsham. Training, sir. I have experience with working dogs. What kind of experience? Basic handler courses, Pendleton. Vance stared at her for a long time. Then he opened a drawer and pulled out a folder. He set it on the desk. He opened it. Inside was a photograph, Sarav, the same photograph Hale had received in the encrypted email. A woman in tactical gear. A Black Hawk helicopter. Syria. Do you know who this is? Vance asked. Ava looked at the photograph. Her own face stared back at her from 3 years ago. Younger. Harder. Covered in dust and blood and the kind of exhaustion that goes past the body and settles into the soul. She looked up at Vance. No, sir. You're sure? I've never seen that woman before. Vance closed the folder. He leaned forward, both hands flat on the desk. I'm going to ask you one more time, Quinn, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer, because the answer you give me in the next 10 seconds is going to determine whether you walk out of this office or whether you're escorted off this base in the handcuffs. He slid the folder across the desk until it touched her hands. Who are you? Ava Quinn sat in that chair and she felt the weight of 3 years pressing down on her chest. 3 years of lying, 3 years of pretending, 3 years of wearing a name that didn't belong to her and living a life that was designed to erase the person she really was. She thought about the 6 men who died in the desert. She thought about their faces. She thought about the promise she made to them in the dark with bullets cracking overhead and blood soaking into the sand. And she made a choice. My name is Maya Reeves. I was the K9 handler assigned to Silent Fang. I survived the ambush. I completed the mission. And someone inside this command structure sold my team to the enemy. Vance didn't move, didn't blink, but something shifted behind his eyes. Something that looked like recognition, or maybe fear. I know, he said quietly. 2 words. 2 words that shattered every assumption Ava had made for 3 years. What do you mean, you know? I mean, I know who you are, Maya. I've always known. I'm the one who put you here. Ava stood up so fast, the chair tipped backward and crashed to the floor. Her body locked into combat posture. Her hands came up. Her weight shifted to the balls of her feet. Explain now. I was your handler's handler. When you survived Syria and they decided to erase you, I was the one who built the Quinn identity. I chose this base because it was remote enough to keep you hidden. I've been watching over you for 3 years, Maya, making sure the people who want you dead couldn't find you. Then why did Hale get the photograph? Why did someone leak my real identity? Vance's face changed. For the first time since Ava had walked through his door, he looked scared. Because someone inside my operation has been compromised. Someone I trusted to maintain your cover has turned. And I don't know who. Ava's blood froze. How many people knew I was here? 4, me, my deputy, a liaison at the Pentagon, and one field operative who monitored the base perimeter. Give me their names. Vance shook his head. I can't do that until I know who turned. If I give you those names and you go after the wrong person, you'll expose yourself to the right one. Commander, you don't understand. Hale has been digging. He pulled a Silent Fang fragment from SOCOM. He's made phone calls. He's left traces everywhere. If your operation is compromised, they already know I'm here. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and when is coming fast. Vance walked to the window. He pressed his forehead against the glass. And then he said the thing that Ava had been dreading since the moment she stepped onto the space. They sent someone. I got word an hour ago through a back channel, a contractor, former CIA. His name is Colton Briggs, no relation to your Lieutenant Briggs. He specializes in targeted elimination, and he's already en route. Ava's whole body went cold, and she knew the name. Every special operator in the community knew the name. Colton Briggs was the man they called when something needed to disappear and never be found. He had operated in 14 countries. He had never failed an assignment. How long do I have? Based on the intelligence I received, he'll be in the operational area within 36 hours. 36 hours. 36 hours to find the traitor. 36 hours to get the evidence. 36 hours before a man who had never failed came to kill her. Ava picked up the chair. She set it upright. She sat back down. And she looked at Commander Vance with eyes that had seen death so many times they no longer flinched at its approach. Then we have 36 hours to finish this, she said. And Commander, when this is over, if we're still alive, you and I are going to have a very long conversation about the 3 years you kept me in the dark. Vance nodded slowly. Fair enough. Now tell me everything you know about Shepard. Vance opened his mouth to speak. But before he could, his desk phone rang. He looked at the caller ID. His face went gray. Who is it? Ava asked. Vance picked up the phone. He listened for 8 seconds. Then he hung up without saying a word. What happened? Vance looked at her, and the fear in his eyes had turned into something deeper. Something that looked like grief. Briggs, Lieutenant Briggs, you're Briggs. He was just found unconscious in the records building. Someone beat him badly, and the Silent Fang file he pulled from archives is gone. Ava stood up. Her jaw was set. Her hands were fists. The clock she had felt ticking since the night Hale found her name had just accelerated. They weren't coming in 36 hours. They were already here. Ava was out of Vance's office before he could say another word. She moved through the base at a pace that was just below a run, fast enough to close distance, controlled enough to avoid drawing attention. But her mind was sprinting. Briggs was down. The file was gone. Someone on this base right now, within these fences, was working for the other side. She found Hale in the training yard. He was mid-sentence shouting at a group of recruits doing push-ups in the dirt. She walked straight up to him and spoke low enough that only he could hear. Briggs is in the infirmary. He was attacked in the records building. The Silent Fang file is gone. Hale's face didn't change. 22 years of discipline kept it locked. But his eyes did something she had never seen before. They went dark. The kind of dark that comes when a man realizes the war he thought was coming is already in his house. When, within the last hour, someone on this base did it, Chief, someone who knew what he was carrying and where he was going. How bad is he? Unconscious, that's all Vance told me. Hale turned to Petty Officer Davis. Take over, full rotation until I get back. Then he fell in step beside Ava, and they walked toward the infirmary together, two people carrying a secret that was getting heavier by the minute. Briggs was in a bed behind a curtain. His face was swollen on the left side. A gash above his eyebrow had been closed with butterfly strips. His right hand was wrapped in gauze. The base medic, a young corpsman named Reyes, stood nearby looking shaken. What happened? Hale asked. Reyes shook his head. He was found on the floor of the records annex by a security patrol at 10:45. No witnesses, no cameras in that section of the building. Whoever did this knew exactly where the blind spots were. Hale looked down at Briggs. The man's breathing was shallow but steady. His eyelids fluttered. Briggs, can you hear me? A groan, then a whisper. Chief, who did this to you? Briggs tried to open his eyes. One opened. The other was swollen shut. He looked at Hale with the expression of a man trying to claw his way out of a fog. Didn't see a face. Came from behind. Fast. Professional. Not a recruit. Not someone who fights like a recruit. Did they say anything? One thing. Briggs swallowed hard. The effort of speaking was costing him. He leaned down after he hit me, put his mouth right next to my ear, and he said, tell Hale to stop digging, or the next one goes in the ground. Hale stood up straight, his jaw clenched so hard that Ava could hear his teeth grind. He knew my name, Hale said. He knew your name, Ava confirmed, which means he's been watching. He's been listening, and he's not some random operative who just arrived. He's been on this base long enough to know who's involved. They stepped away from the bed. Ava lowered her voice to a breath. Vance told me they sent a contractor, Colton Briggs. He said 36 hours. But this attack happened now. Either Vance's intelligence was wrong or Colton was already in position before Vance got the warning. Or Vance lied, Hale said. The words hung between them like a knife suspended in air. You think Vance is compromised? Ava asked. I think Vance told you he put you here. He said he built your cover. He said he's been protecting you. But the moment things got hot, the first thing that happened was Briggs got taken down and the file disappeared. Vance had access to every piece of information you just gave him. Your location, your identity, the file, all of it. He could have given me up years ago, or he could have been waiting for exactly this moment. The moment you trust him enough to reveal yourself. Ava closed her eyes. The calculus of trust in the intelligence world was brutal. Every ally was a potential enemy. Every protector was a potential betrayer. She had lived inside that calculus for 3 years, and she still couldn't solve it. We can't rule anyone out, she said. Not Vance, not Torres, not anyone. Then we trust no one. We trust each other. That's it, and we move fast. Hale nodded. Catherine, she's our last play. If she can pull the communication logs from Bragg before whoever is doing this realizes we have a second channel, call her now. Tell her the timeline just changed. We don't have 48 hours. We might not have 24. Hale pulled out his personal phone. He dialed Catherine's number. It rang and rang and rang. Voicemail. He tried again. Same result. A third time. Nothing. Ava watched his face. She saw the exact moment fear arrived. Not the managed fear of a soldier. The raw, primal fear of a man who has just realized that someone he cares about might be in danger. She always answers, he said. Always. Even when she hates me. She answers. When was the last time you spoke to her? Last night, 4 a.m. She said she'd have the files in 48 hours. And now she's not picking up. Hale stared at his phone. His hand was shaking. Not from cold, not from adrenaline, from the realization that his decision to pull at this thread might have just cost someone their life. If they got to Catherine, he started. Don't go there yet. There could be 100 reasons she's not answering. She could be in the SCIF. She could be in a briefing. She could have silenced her phone. Or she could be lying on a floor somewhere with her face beaten in just like Briggs. Chief, I need you to hold it together. If Catherine is compromised, panicking won't save her. Thinking will. Hale looked at Ava, and in that moment the last piece of the wall between them crumbled. He wasn't a chief petty officer anymore. She wasn't a recruit. They were two people standing in the middle of a fire, and the only thing keeping either of them alive was the other. What do we do? He asked. We find another way to get those logs, and we figure out who on this base attacked Briggs. At 1400, Noah Carter was leaving the mess hall when Torres intercepted him. The staff sergeant, his face was tight. His movements were quick. The easy confidence that Torres usually carried was gone, replaced by something Noah had never seen in the man before. Urgency. Carter, walk with me. What's going on? Not here. They walked to the far end of the motor pool out of earshot of anyone. Torres stopped and turned to face him. Something bad is happening on this base. Briggs is in the infirmary. Someone worked him over. And the word I'm hearing from the security detail is that it wasn't random. It was targeted. Targeted why? Because of Quinn, because of what she did in the kennel, because Hale started asking questions about her and someone doesn't want those questions answered. Noah's gut tightened. What kind of questions? Torres lowered his voice even further. I told you about Maya Reeves, the canine handler who died in Syria. I've been doing more digging since we talked, and I found something that scared me enough to come find you. What did you find? A name. Colton Briggs. He's a contractor, former agency, the kind of guy they send when they want a problem to go away permanently. And according to a buddy of mine at Langley who still talks to me after a few drinks, Colton was activated 48 hours ago. Destination not specified, but the timing matches. Noah felt a chill race down his spine. You think he's coming here? I think he might already be here. And I think Quinn, or whoever she really is the target. Noah stood very still. His mind was working fast the way it used to work on the wrestling mat when an opponent was coming at him and he had a half second to choose a counter. Why are you telling me this? Torres looked at him with an expression that Noah would remember for the rest of his life. It was the look of a man choosing sides. Because you're the only recruit on this base I trust. Because whatever is about to go down, Quinn is going to need people around her who aren't compromised. And because I took an oath to protect the people I serve with, all of them, even the ones with fake names. Noah nodded, one sharp nod, the kind of nod a man gives when he decides to step off a cliff and see if he can fly. What do you need me to do? Watch her back. Don't let her be alone. And if someone you don't recognize shows up on this base in the next 24 hours, you come find me immediately. At 15:30, Hale tried Catherine's phone again. This time someone answered, but it wasn't Catherine. Who is this? The voice was male, cold, professional. The kind of voice that belongs to someone who has been trained to control every syllable. I'm calling for Major Hale, Hale said. Who am I speaking to? Major Hale is unavailable. She's been called into a security review. Her personal communications are being held pending the outcome of an internal investigation. What investigation? That's classified, sir. If you have official business with Major Hale, please contact the Fort Bragg Public Affairs Office. The line went dead. Hale put the phone down slowly. His face had gone white. Ava, standing 2 feet away, read every emotion that crossed it. Fear, rage, guilt. And beneath all of it, the cold certainty that the game had just changed. They have her, Hale said. We don't know that for certain. They answered her phone. A man I don't know answered my ex-wife's phone and told me she's in a security review. That's not a coincidence. They got to her. They found out she was accessing the logs, and now she's either in custody or worse. Chief, this is my fault. I dragged her into this. I called her in the middle of the night and asked her to commit espionage, and now she's... Stop. Ava grabbed his arm, hard enough to leave a mark. You don't have the luxury of guilt right now. Guilt is for later. Guilt is for when we're safe. Right now, I need you functional. Can you be functional? Hale looked at her hand on his arm. He looked at her face. He took a breath that seemed to come from somewhere deep and wounded. Yeah, I'm functional. Good. Because we just lost our access to the Bragg archives. We have someone on this base who is beating people unconscious. There's a professional killer either en route or already here. And the only file that could prove the identity of Shepard is gone. We are running out of moves. So I need you to think, is there anyone else, anyone at all who might have access to JSOC communication logs from March 2021? Hale thought. He paced, he stopped, he paced again. There might be one person, but you're not going to like it. I don't like anything about this situation. Who? Colonel Diana Falk. Ava stared at him. Falk, the woman we suspect might be Shepard. Not her personally. Her office. Falk runs a division at Warcom that handles operational security reviews. Part of her mandate is maintaining backup archives of all JSOC communication logs for after-action analysis. If the primary records at Bragg are locked down, Falk's office would have a secondary copy. You want me to walk into the office of a woman who might be the person who got my team killed and ask her for the evidence that could convict her. I want you to get someone inside that office without her knowing. There's a difference. Ava's mind was turning. Fast. Calculating risks, angles, possibilities. Running scenarios the way she had been trained to do in a dozen mission planning rooms across 3 continents. Where is Falk's office? Warcom headquarters. Norfolk. About 6 hours by car. I can't leave this base. The moment I disappear, whoever attacked Briggs will know something is wrong. Then we send someone she won't expect. Someone who isn't connected to any of this. They both arrived at the same name at the same time. Noah Carter. At 1700, Ava found Noah at the pull-up bars. He was on his 32nd rep. She waited until he dropped. Carter, walk with me. Noah wiped his hands on his pants. He fell in step beside her. They walked the perimeter of the training field, 2 recruits on an evening walk. Nothing unusual, nothing that would trigger a camera review. Torres talked to you, Ava said. It wasn't a question. He did. What did he tell you? That your real name might be Maya Reeves, that you're supposed to be dead, that there's someone on this base who wants to make that official. Ava nodded, no denial, no deflection. The time for covers and lies had run out. My name is Maya Reeves. I was a K9 handler and special operator. 3 years ago, my entire team was killed in Syria because someone inside our chain of command betrayed us. I survived. They erased me, put me here under a fake name. And now, because Hale started pulling at threads, the people who want me buried have found me again. Noah kept walking. His pace didn't change. His breathing didn't change. But his eyes did. They hardened. The way metal hardens when you heat it and cool it fast. What do you need? I need you to do something dangerous. Something that has nothing to do with your training. Something that could end your career before it starts. Tell me. There's a facility at Warcom headquarters in Norfolk. Inside that facility is a backup archive of JSOC communication logs. Those logs contain the evidence that identifies the person who betrayed my team. I need someone to get inside that building, access those logs, and bring them back without being detected. Why me? Because you're a recruit. You don't exist in their threat matrix. You have no connection to me on paper. And because Torres told me something about you that matters more than any of that. What? That you're the kind of person who does the right thing even when it costs you everything. Noah stopped walking. He turned to face her. In that moment, standing on the dirt track with the evening light dying around them, he wasn't a recruit and she wasn't a ghost. They were two people standing at the edge of something they couldn't come back from. My father served 26 years in the Army, Noah said. He told me once that the most important decision a soldier ever makes is not whether to follow orders. It's whether to follow the truth when the orders and the truth go in different directions. And which way are you going? I'm going to Norfolk. At 1900, Hale arranged a 48-hour Liberty Pass for Noah under the cover of a family emergency. The paperwork was clean. The story was simple. Noah's mother was ill. He needed to go home to Virginia. Nobody questioned it. Noah left the base at 2000 in a rental car that Torres had arranged through a contact off base. He carried a burner phone, a set of civilian clothes, and a thumb drive that Ava had given him with instructions so specific that they read like a surgical manual. Get to Norfolk. Enter Warcom through the East Gate using a visitor's pass that Hale's contact would leave at the security desk. Find the archive room on sublevel 2. Access Terminal 7. Search for Silent Fang communication logs dated March 14th through March 16th, 2021. Copy everything. Get out. Simple on paper, potentially fatal in practice. At 2100, with Noah on the road and the base settling into nighttime routine, Ava did something she hadn't done in 3 years. She went to the K9 compound. Torres was there doing his evening rounds. He saw her coming and unlocked the gate without a word. She walked past him, past the first row of kennels, past the second, until she reached Kennel 6. Rex was lying on his mat. He lifted his head when he saw her. His tail wagged once, twice. Then he stood up and pressed his nose against the wire. Ava put her hand against the mesh. Rex licked her fingers, and something inside her, something she had kept locked away and buried and frozen for 3 years, cracked open. "Hey, boy," she whispered. Rex whined, a soft, low sound, the sound a dog makes when it recognizes someone it thought was gone. "I know," Ava said, "I know." She pressed her forehead against the wire. She closed her eyes, and for 30 seconds she wasn't Maya Reeves, the operator. She wasn't Ava Quinn, the ghost. She was just a woman who had lost everything standing in front of an animal that didn't care about classified files or code names or betrayals. An animal that only understood one thing. She was here. She was real. She was alive, and that was enough. Torres watched from a distance. He didn't interrupt. He didn't speak. He just stood there and let her have the moment, because some things are sacred even in the middle of a war. At 2200, Hale received a text on his burner phone. 3 words. No sender ID. Colton is here. He found Ava in the barracks. She was lying in her bunk with her eyes open, staring at the ceiling the same way she had done every night for 3 years. "We have a problem," he said. "I know." "How do you know?" "Because I felt him arrive. The dogs started barking at 2145. All of them. At the same time. Dogs don't do that unless something enters their territory that they've never encountered before. Something that scares them. Colton scares dogs. Colton scares everything." Hale sat on the edge of the nearest bunk. "What's the play?" "We wait. Noah is 6 hours out from Norfolk. If he gets the logs, we have leverage. If Colton moves before Noah gets back, we have nothing. And if Colton moves tonight..." Ava sat up. She swung her legs over the side of the bunk. She looked at Hale with eyes that held no more room for fear. She had burned through every ounce of it. What was left was something else, something older, something that predated training and tactics and strategy, Survival. If Colton moves tonight, she said, then Maya Reeves stops hiding, and Colton finds out why the military spent 3 years trying to make sure nobody ever found me. Hale looked at her, and for the first time, he didn't see a recruit. He didn't see a problem. He didn't see a ghost. He saw a weapon. At 2300, the base went dark. The barracks fell silent. The guards made their rounds. The dogs in the K9 compound had stopped barking, but their ears were still up, their bodies still tense, their eyes still watching the shadows. Somewhere on that base, behind a face that no one would suspect, Colton was waiting, calculating, planning the cleanest way to make Maya Reeves disappear for the final time. And somewhere on I-64, pushing 90 miles an hour through the Virginia night, Noah Carter gripped the steering wheel with both hands and prayed that he would make it to Norfolk before the sun came up. Because when the sun came up, everything was going to change, and there would be no going back. At 23:59, Hale's burner phone buzzed one more time, a different number, a message that stopped his heart. Catherine is alive. She got out before they locked her down. She has the files. She's running. Hale read the message 3 times. His hands were shaking. His eyes were burning. He showed the phone to Ava. Ava read it, and for the first time since Syria, something that was not fear and was not rage moved across her face. 2 channels, she said. Noah heading to Norfolk. Catherine running with the Bragg files. If either one of them makes it back, we win. And if neither of them does. Ava stood up. She reached under her mattress and pulled out a knife she had taken from the training supply room 3 days ago. She checked the blade. She slipped it into her boot. Then I go find Colton myself, and only one of us walks away. 0300. The base was holding its breath. Ava stood in the dark between the barracks and the motor pool, the knife in her boot pressing cold against her ankle. She hadn't slept. She wouldn't sleep. Sleep was a luxury that belonged to people who weren't being hunted. Hale was in his office watching the security feeds on his laptop. 4 cameras covered the main approaches to the base. 2 covered the interior compound. None covered the blind spots along the eastern perimeter, and both of them knew that if Colton was going to move, he would come from the east. At 03:15, Hale's burner buzzed. Noah. I'm 30 minutes out from Norfolk, no problems on the road. Good. When you get there, the visitor's pass will be under the name David Webb. My contact left it at the East Gate security desk. Don't deviate from the plan. Get in, get the files, get out. Understood. Noah, be careful. I will, Chief. The line went dead. Hale set the phone down and looked at the security feeds again. Nothing moved. But nothing moving at 3 in the morning on a military base where attack dogs had gone silent was not a comfort. It was a warning. At 0340, Torres radioed Hale on a private channel. His voice was strained. Chief, we have a problem in the K9 compound. What kind of problem? Rex is gone. Kennel 6 is open. The lock wasn't forced. Someone used a key. Hale felt his stomach drop. Only 3 people on base had keys to the K9 kennels. Torres, his deputy handler, Sergeant Mora, and the base operations officer. Torres, who else has access to those keys? Just me and Mora. The ops officer has a master, but it's kept in a safe in the admin building. Where's Mora right now? A pause. I don't know. He was supposed to be on night watch in the compound. He's not here. Find him. Hale grabbed his jacket and moved. He found Ava where he'd left her standing in the shadows near the motor pool. Rex is missing, he said. Someone opened his kennel with a key. And one of the handlers, Sergeant Mora, is unaccounted for. Ava's body changed. The relaxed posture vanished. Every line of her went taut like a bowstring drawn back to its breaking point. Colton is using the dog, she said. What? Think about it. The most dangerous animal on this base is now loose. If Rex attacks someone tonight, if a recruit or a guard gets mauled, the entire base goes into emergency lockdown. Every light comes on. Every person moves to a designated shelter point. Chaos, confusion, and in the middle of all that noise, one person quietly disappears. You. Me. Then we need to find Rex before Colton uses him as a diversion. No, we need to find Mora, because if Colton got a key from him, either Mora gave it willingly or Mora is already dead. They split up. Hale went east toward the K9 compound. Ava went south toward the handler quarters. She moved fast and silent, the knife now in her hand blade flat against her forearm. She found Mora in the supply closet behind the handler barracks. He was on the floor, zip-tied at the wrists and ankles, a strip of duct tape over his mouth. His eyes were wide and wet with terror. He was alive. Whoever had taken him down had done it clean. No blood, no bruises, Professional restraint. Ava pulled the tape off. Mora gasped. How many? She asked. One, just one, big guy. Moved like smoke. I didn't even hear him until he was behind me. Did he take the keys? All of them. The kennel keys, the compound master, everything. Did he say anything? Mora swallowed hard. He said, stay quiet and you live. Make noise and your family gets a folded flag. Then he took the keys and left. Ava cut the zip ties. Get to the infirmary. Stay there. Don't talk to anyone except Chief Hale. Mora scrambled to his feet and ran. Ava watched him go, then turned south again. If Colton had all the kennel keys, he didn't just release Rex. He could release every dog on the compound. 12 military working dogs loose on a base full of sleeping recruits. The carnage would be unimaginable. She ran. She hit the K9 compound at 0400. Torres was there, a catchpole in each hand, his face slick with sweat. 4 kennels were open. 4 dogs were missing. Rex Duke and 2 Dutch shepherds named Ajax and Fang. He took the most aggressive ones, Torres said, his voice cracking. The 4 dogs that are trained for unrestricted attack. If they get into the barracks, they won't. I'll find them. Ava, those dogs are in hunt mode. Even you can't. I will. But I need you to do something. Sound the emergency alarm. Get every recruit into the mess hall and lock the doors. Tell Hale what's happening. And Torres, listen to me. No matter what you hear out there, in the next 30 minutes, do not send anyone to find me. Do you understand? Torres looked at her. His eyes were full of something that was equal parts fear and awe. Go get them back, he said. Ava moved into the dark. She moved the way she had been trained to move in Syria and Afghanistan, in a dozen black sites where the distance between life and death was measured in heartbeats. She slowed her breathing. She opened her senses, and she listened. There, 200 yards east, the soft pad of paws on concrete, a low growl, then another. The dogs were together, moving as a pack, heading toward the barracks. Ava intercepted them at the junction between the training field and the east corridor. 4 shapes in the dark, massive, muscular, eyes catching the faint light from the guard tower. Rex was in front. His hackles were up. His teeth were bared. Every instinct in that animal's body had been activated, and without a handler to direct him, he was operating on pure predatory drive. Ava dropped to one knee. She placed the knife on the ground. She put both hands flat on the concrete, and she made the sound. The same sound she had made in the kennel. Low, guttural, primal. A sound that did not come from training manuals or behavioral science. A sound that came from 15 years of living with military dogs, sleeping beside them, bleeding beside them, watching them kill. A sound that came from the place where human language ends and something older begins. Rex stopped, his head tilted. The growl faded. Beside him, Duke froze. Ajax and Fang slowed, then stopped, then sat. One by one, they came to her. Not in submission this time, in recognition. They pressed against her legs. They pushed their noses into her hands. Rex put his enormous head in her lap and exhaled, and the sound was the most peaceful thing Ava had heard in 3 years. I know, boys, she whispered. I know. Come on. Let's go home. She walked them back to the compound. All 4. No leashes, no restraints. They followed her like soldiers following a commander. Torres watched from the gate with his mouth open and his catch poles hanging useless at his sides. That's impossible, he said. Lock them up, Torres, and don't let anyone near these kennels again tonight. At 0430, the emergency alarm sounded. The base woke up fast and ugly. Recruits poured out of the barracks in various states of dress, confusion, and fear. Hale directed them to the mess hall. Within 10 minutes, every recruit was accounted for, except one. Noah Carter's bunk was empty. His Liberty Pass was in the system. Officially, he was in Virginia visiting his sick mother. Nobody questioned it. But there was another absence, one that made Hale's blood freeze. Commander Vance was gone. His quarters were empty. His vehicle was still in the lot. His phone was on his desk. But the man himself had vanished. Hale found Ava outside the mess hall. Vance is missing. Ava's jaw tightened. When was the last confirmed sighting? 2200. The duty officer saw him enter his quarters. Nobody saw him leave. Then he left through the east perimeter, the same blind spot Colton used. Why would Vance leave? Because Vance isn't who he said he was. He told me he put me here to protect me. He told me he built my cover. But think about it, Chief. If Vance was really my protector, why did he have the same photograph that was sent to you? Why did he show it to me? A real protector would have buried that photo, not used it as a test. You think Vance has been playing both sides? I think Vance has been managing me for 3 years, keeping me close, keeping me quiet, making sure I never got far enough in my investigation to find the truth. And the moment Hale started pulling files and making calls, Vance realized he was losing control. So he came to me with a story about protecting me, hoping I would trust him enough to stop digging. But you didn't stop. And now he's running, because if Noah gets those files, if Catherine gets those files, then Vance's game is over. At 0500, Noah Carter reached Norfolk. He parked 3 blocks from Warcom headquarters. He changed into civilian clothes. He walked to the east gate with the kind of casual confidence that only a man who has spent his entire life performing under pressure can fake. The visitor's pass was where Hale said it would be. David Webb, civilian contractor. Building access clearance for sublevels 1 through 3. He clipped the badge to his shirt. He walked through the gate. The security guard glanced at the badge, checked the computer, and waved him through. Noah walked through the building. His heart was slamming against his ribs so hard he was sure someone could see it through his shirt. Every face he passed was a potential threat. Every corner was a potential trap. But he kept walking, 1 foot in front of the other, the way you walk when you know that stopping means dying. Sublevel 2, archive room, Terminal 7. He sat down. He inserted the thumb drive. He typed the search parameters Ava had given him. Silent Fang, March 14th through 16th, 2021. Communication logs, all channels. The screen loaded, and what Noah saw made him forget how to breathe. 347 transmission records. Radio, satellite, encrypted messenger. Every communication in and out of JSOC headquarters during the 72 hours surrounding the Silent Fang mission. And buried in the middle, flagged with a red security marker that someone had tried and failed to delete, was a single outgoing transmission. Timestamp, March 15th, 2021, 0217, 3 hours before the ambush. Origin Warcom, Secure Terminal, Norfolk, Virginia. Destination unknown, external receiver. Frequency matched to known hostile communication networks. Content, full extraction route. Team composition, vehicle descriptions. Timeline, authorization signature biactual. Noah stared at the screen, biactual. In military communication protocols, the V prefix designated the commanding authority of the operation. For Silent Fang, biactual wasn't Cross. It wasn't Falk. Viactual was Commander Vance. Noah copied everything. Every file, every log, every byte of data on that terminal. He pulled the thumb drive. He stood up, and he walked out of that building faster than he had ever moved in his life. At 0600, he was back on the road. He called Hale. I have it, all of it. Chief, it's Vance. Vance is Shepard. The silence on the other end lasted 5 full seconds. Say that again. The transmission that gave away the team's position in Syria was sent from a Warcom terminal in Norfolk. The authorization signature is biactual. Vance sent it himself. Vance sold them out. Hale closed his eyes. The man who had told Ava he was her protector. The man who had built her cover identity. The man who claimed he had been watching over her for 3 years. That man had killed her team. He hadn't been protecting her. He had been imprisoning her, keeping the one person who could expose him locked inside a cage of lies under a fake name on a base he controlled, where he could watch her every move. And the moment she started getting close to the truth, he ran. How far out are you? Hale asked. 5 hours. Make it 4. Hale found Ava in the K9 compound. She was sitting outside Rex's kennel, her back against the wire, her eyes closed. She opened them when she heard him coming. Noah has the files, Hale said. It's Vance. He watched her face. He expected anger. He expected rage. He expected the controlled fury of a warrior who has just learned the identity of her enemy. What he saw was worse. He saw grief. Raw, bottomless, devastating grief. The grief of a woman who had spent 3 years trusting that someone somewhere was looking out for her, and learning that person was the one who had destroyed everything she loved. He sat across from me yesterday, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked me in the eye and told me he put me here to keep me safe. He said he built my cover. He said he'd always known who I was, and I believed him. For 20 minutes, I believed that someone in this world had actually been trying to protect me. Ava. He killed them. Jackson, Morales, Petrov, Kimball. Rhodes and Sullivan. 6 men. My men. They called me Maya and they trusted me with their lives, and the man who sent us into that desert sold our position to the enemy for money. She stood up. The grief was still there, but something else was rising through it. Something hot and sharp and ancient. The same thing that had kept her alive in the Syrian desert. The same thing that had carried a man on her back for 11 miles through hostile territory. The same thing that had made 6 attack dogs drop to the ground at her feet. Where would Vance go? Hale asked. He has a contingency. A man like Vance always has a contingency, an extraction plan, a safe house, a contact who can get him out of the country within hours. Then he's gone. Not yet. Vance left his phone, his vehicle. He left in the middle of the night through a perimeter gap. That's not a man executing a clean extraction. That's a man who panicked. Something happened last night that he didn't expect. Something forced him to move before he was ready. The dogs. You recovered the dogs. Colton's diversion failed. Exactly. Colton was supposed to create chaos. In that chaos, Vance would disappear and I would die. Clean, tied up, no loose ends. But the chaos never happened. The dogs came back, the base locked down, and now Vance is out there without his cover, without his plan, and without his weapon. Colton is still on this base. No, Colton is with Vance. A contractor like Colton doesn't stay where the mission has failed. He regroups with his handler and reassesses. They're together, and they're close, because Vance knows this area. He knows every road, every safe house, every emergency extraction point within 100 miles of Echo. At 0700, Catherine Hale made contact. She called from a gas station payphone outside of Fayetteville. Her voice was thin and shaking, but alive. Marcus, I have the files. I copied them before they locked down the archive. I've been driving all night. Where are you, Manathia? 4 hours south of Echo. Catherine, listen to me. Change direction. Don't come to the base. Head to the Naval Criminal Investigative Service Field Office in Norfolk. Ask for Agent Diane Reese. Tell her everything. Give her the files. Tell her the code name Shepard. Tell her Vactual. Marcus, what is happening? I'll explain everything when this is over. But right now, the most important thing is that those files get to someone with the authority to act on them. Can you do that? Yes, I can do that. Catherine, thank you. A pause, the kind of pause that holds 15 years of marriage and 3 years of silence and all the things that should have been said but never were. Just don't die, Marcus. I'm not done being angry at you yet. At 0900, NCIS agent Diane Reese received 2 visitors within 30 minutes of each other. The first was Catherine Hale carrying a thumb drive full of JSOC communication logs from Fort Bragg. The second was Noah Carter carrying an identical set of logs from the Warcom archive in Norfolk. 2 independent sources, 2 complete copies of the evidence, 2 chains of custody that could not be disputed, discredited, or destroyed. Reese looked at the files. She looked at the transmission record. She looked at the authorization signature. V. Actual. She picked up her phone. Get me the director, now. By noon, a federal warrant had been issued for Commander Vance. By 1400, his photograph was on every law enforcement database in the Eastern Seaboard. By 1600, a joint NCIS and FBI task force had been assembled. By 1800, satellite surveillance had located Vance and Colton at a private airfield 47 miles south of Echo Base, attempting to board a chartered plane to Mexico. They didn't make it. The takedown was fast and hard. 12 federal agents, 2 armored vehicles. Colton went for a weapon and was shot twice in the shoulder. Vance surrendered without resistance. When they put the handcuffs on him, he said nothing. He didn't look at the agents. He didn't look at the sky. He stared at the ground, and his face held the expression of a man who had been running for so long that being caught almost felt like relief. At 2000, Ava stood in Commander Vance's empty office. Hale stood beside her. The room was quiet. The desk was clean. The chair was pushed in, as if no one had ever sat there, as if the man who had destroyed her life had never existed. It's over, Hale said. No, it's not. Cross and Falk. The investigation will find them. Vance will talk. Men like him always talk when they realize no one is coming to save them. There's a network, a pipeline. Vance was the trigger, but someone paid him. Someone recruited him, and that someone is still out there. But not for long. No, not for long. Hale turned to her. What happens now, for you? Now I get my name back. Maya Reeves goes back on the record. Every file they scrubbed, every mission they erased, every commendation they deleted. All of it gets restored. My team gets the recognition they deserved. Their families get the truth. And you, Maya, looked at him. Not Ava, Maya. The name fit her the way a weapon fits a trained hand. Natural. Right. Like it had been waiting for her to pick it back up. I'm going back to work. There are people out there who sell American soldiers for money, and now they know someone is coming for them. Noah Carter arrived back on base at 2100. He walked through the gate, exhausted, unshaved, still wearing civilian clothes. Torres met him at the motor pool. They shook hands without speaking because some things don't need words. Hale was waiting in the training yard. When Noah approached, Hale did something he had never done for a recruit. He extended his hand. You saved lives today, Carter. Noah shook it. I just drove a car and plugged in a thumb drive. You did a hell of a lot more than that, and you know it. At 2200, Maya Reeves walked to the K9 compound one last time. Torres unlocked the gate. She went to Kennel 6. Rex was waiting. He stood when he saw her. His tail moved. His ears came forward. Maya opened the kennel door. She stepped inside. She knelt down. Rex pressed his forehead against hers, and they stayed like that woman and dog breathing together in the dark. We're going home, boy, she whispered. Both of us. Rex exhaled, a long, deep breath, the kind of breath you take when you have been holding on for so long that letting go feels like being born again. 3 days later, a formal military investigation was opened into Operation Silent Fang. Commander Vance was charged with espionage, conspiracy, and 6 counts of second-degree murder for the deaths of Jackson Morales, Petrov, Kimball, Rhodes, and Sullivan. Colonel Diana Falk was arrested at her home in Alexandria on charges of accessory to treason. Deputy Director Raymond Cross resigned and was taken into federal custody before his plane left Dulles. The network Vance had built over 20 years began to collapse. One name led to another. One file led to 10. The investigation expanded to 3 countries and 14 military installations. Maya Reeves testified before a closed Senate committee for 9 hours. She told them everything. Syria, the ambush, the deaths, the erasure, the 3 years of hiding. She told them about a man named Hale who kicked her into a cage full of dogs and then stood beside her when it mattered most. She told them about a young recruit named Noah who drove through the night to steal the truth from a building full of lies. She told them about a woman named Catherine who risked her career and her freedom because her ex-husband asked her to. When she finished, the room was silent for a long time. The chairman leaned forward. Mrs. Reeves, what would you like us to do? I want my team's names on the memorial window at Fort Bragg. I want their families to receive every benefit and recognition they were denied. And I want a promise from this committee that no one in this government will ever erase a soldier again. We serve, we sacrifice, we die, but we do not disappear. 6 months later, Maya Reeves stood at Fort Bragg in dress uniform. Behind her, 6 names had been carved into granite. Jackson, Morales, Petrov, Kimball, Rhodes, Sullivan. The sun was warm. The wind was still. Rex sat at her feet wearing a service harness with a new unit patch. Hale was there. Noah was there. Catherine was there. Torres was there. Even Briggs, his face still carrying the faint scar above his eyebrow, was there. Maya touched the stone. She traced each name with her fingertip. 6 men who gave everything. 6 men who were erased. 6 men who now finally existed again. She didn't cry. She had done her crying in the desert holding dying men and telling them lies about how everything was going to be okay. Today, she told them the truth. I found him, she whispered to the stone. I found the man who did this to you, and he will never hurt anyone again. Rex leaned against her leg. She put her hand on his head. And Maya Reeves, the woman they tried to erase, the woman they threw into a cage, the woman who made attack dogs kneel and made traitors fall, stood in the sunlight with her name restored. Her team remembered and her war finally mercifully over. She was no longer a ghost. She was no longer hiding. She was exactly who she had always been. A warrior, a survivor, a promise kept.